Hey everyone, a good Erev Shabbos. I hope this message finds you and your loved ones healthy and safe. And I hope that you're continuing to make the most and the very best of every single day and every moment and every opportunity, being mindful to keep hopeful and positive and optimistic. The opening psukim of the second of the two parshos that we will read this coming Shabbos in Parshas Bechukosai describe the brachos, the blessings promised to Bnei Yisrael in reward for their faithful and steadfast compliance with all of the laws of the Torah. Hashem assures the people that their obedience would be rewarded with material prosperity, with shalom, with peace and tranquility, and then the ultimate reward of Hashem dwelling amongst us. But it is in the context of the promise of an abundance of produce and sustenance that the Torah says, "V'chaltem lachmechem lasoiva," that you shall eat your bread to satiation. The Pashut Pshat, the plain meaning of the pasuk, of course, is that the people would be blessed with such prosperity that they would have enough food to eat, to be sated, and not just enough to survive. Rashi, however, citing the Torah's Kohanim, explains that the meaning of the words "V'chaltem lachmechem lasoiva," it means oichel kima, that this person will eat just a small amount, a bit, and it will be v'hu misbarech b'me'ov, and he will become blessed inside. By eating simply just a small morsel, it will be blessed. That morsel, that small amount, will be blessed inside his stomach. So according to this perush, according to this interpretation, the phrase "V'chaltem lachmechem lasoiva" blesses the people that they will feel sated and satisfied with just a small amount of food, as even a small morsel will bring them satiation and satisfaction. So the question is, of course, what's the meaning of this? If there's an abundance of food that's available, so then why do we also need a blessing, a bracha, that we feel satisfied with a morsel? So I think it's fair to say that we know that an increase in material prosperity, so generally and usually results in an increase in material expectations. You see, the more we're accustomed to having, the more we expect to always have. And so we're easily embittered and very prone to feel deprived when our high expectations when they're not met. Indeed, modern life has brought us standards of comfort and convenience and health and nourishment that previous generations couldn't even imagine in their wildest dreams. And yet, so many people today are unhappy, they're dissatisfied. Why? Because the great blessings that we enjoyed, they're not perceived as blessings. And so we constantly seek more and feel discontented with what it is that we have. We too often fail to acknowledge and appreciate the morsels, the small things, the small blessings of life, because we've come to expect large amounts and high standards and big and major conveniences, and we actually therefore feel dissatisfied without appreciating how much it is that we actually and truly have. Once we recognize the blessing of every morsel, we will always feel blessed, and material prosperity will not cause us to have continued dissatisfaction, but will instead truly be a blessing. It's the story of the seemingly small things that in actuality make all the difference in the world. Take, for example, Yosef Atzadik, who was the lowly Eved, the lowly Jewish slave who gets imprisoned with some other of the higher-ups in Egyptian society. The simple servant, he's sitting in prison, he's sitting in jail with the Sar HaOfim, the Sar HaMashkin. When it is that Yosef Atzadik, he perceives that there's a sadness that's on the face of these two personalities. When he sees them, he proceeds to ask them with 4 words, Madua pneichem roim hayom. Why are your faces sad? Why do you look despondent? Instead of saying to himself that they're too important, I can't speak to them, who am I? I'm just a lowly slave. Yosef is disturbed by the nervous look on his cellmate's face, and he inquires about their source of anxiousness. And of course, this short question leads to them and telling him about their dreams and ultimately his interpretation. And one thing leads to another, and eventually, of course, as we know, the Sar Mashkin, when he is returned to his post and Paro has his dream that needs interpretation, it's with the 4 words that Yosef Atzadik offers and says and questions. By just seeing the faces of these individuals, these 4 words literally changes world history as it was known. It's amazing when you think about just these 4 words, how it was that everything was as a result of that change. All because of 4 simple words. So what we see here is such a seemingly small deed, and yet it accomplished so much. We think about those small things and what they mean. It's thinking about the impact of those small deeds that reminds me actually of a fairly well-known story of a young man named Aryeh. And this Aryeh came from a non-religious background, but he decided to explore his roots. He decided to spend some time exploring his Jewish heritage by spending time in yeshiva. He discussed, while he was there, many different issues And while he was discussing those issues, he was attempting to clarify those points that he didn't really understand. He wanted to reconcile some great difficulties. And so, after spending a fairly significant amount of time in a particular yeshiva, so Aryeh had to now decide whether he would live the life that he had been born to, or if he would continue now learning and growing and to live as a religious Orthodox Jew in that type of lifestyle. So finally, Aryeh came to the decision. He decided that despite all of the ideas, despite all the proofs and all of the intellectual arguments that he had heard over the past many weeks and months that he had spent in the yeshiva, his time in the yeshiva was over, and that coming Sunday, he would depart for home. He was going to leave, and he was going to leave the world of religious Judaism behind him. He said goodbye to his new friends, to his chavrusas, to some of his new rebbeim, and he bid farewell to his roommate. It was early Sunday morning, and as Aryeh was getting dressed, he was doing so quietly as possible, hoping not to wake up his roommate at such an early hour. But when he noticed that his roommate was already awake and getting dressed, he said, "What are you doing up so early?" So he said to him, "I'm up early because I want to give you a ride to Penn Station. I know you're catching a train, so I want to give you a ride." So this Aryeh was fairly certain that his roommate maybe didn't understand the situation. So he said to him, "You don't understand. I'm leaving the yeshiva. Gone. Goodbye. I'm not coming back." So the roommate turned to him and he said, "I know that that's what you're doing, but because you're doing that, that doesn't mean that I can't do you a favor. It doesn't mean that I can't be a mensch. It doesn't mean I can't do you a chesed, and so I got up early to give you a ride." This Aryeh, he was literally stunned, stopped in his tracks. He was taken by surprise, and immediately and literally on the spot, he decided, well, if you're willing to drive me to Penn Station, to give me a ride to the train, to take me home, even though I'm planning on leaving and leaving for good, then right here, right now, I changed my mind and I'm going to stay in the yeshiva. And so he did. And thus began the illustrious career and the religious life of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, one of the most prolific authors and greatest scholars of our time, all stemming from a simple act his roommate was prepared to do. All of the books and all of the lectures and all of the influence that Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan had on countless lives, they all go back to the kind thought of a yeshiva boy who was just trying to do a fellow Jew a favor. So too, we have countless opportunities to say a kind word, to send a sweet message via a WhatsApp or an email or a text message, a simple good morning or a hearty mazel tov, yasher koach, a great job. It's an opportunity for us to notice the things our spouses do, that our children do, that often get overlooked and are more often than not underappreciated. Who knows what an effect it can have? Let's learn to be better able to appreciate the morsels, the small things that are blessings that actually are very big, and let's make a difference in someone's life, and who knows, maybe you can change the world. From my family to yours, I want to wish you and your loved ones a healthy, a peaceful, and a joyous Shabbos. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Be well.